It's day 11 of Israel-Hamas war. Over 4,200 people have been killed. There is a stalemate as far as allowing humanitarian aid into Gaza is concerned. Truckloads are waiting at the Rafah border. But with Israel bombing the border post is dysfunctional. The aid can't move in. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization warns that residents of Gaza have just 24 hours of water, electricity and fuel left. The United Nations has put the figure of displaced at 1 million so far. Though Israel is asking Gazans to move towards south, there has been no ceasefire for this evacuation. On the diplomatic front, US President Joe Biden arrives in Tel Aviv on Wednesday. Can there be a diplomatic solution to this crisis? Joining me on the show is our big news maker, straight from Tel Aviv, is former Prime Minister of Israel and a staunch critic of Prime Minister Netanyahu, Ehud Olmert, is joining me live. Thank you so much for your time. US President Joe Biden will be in Israel tomorrow. He may also meet Jordan's King Abdullah later, and another meeting with Palestinian President is likely as well. What are the expectations from this high-profile visit at a time when Hamas-Gaza war is only escalating?
Well, first of all, I hope that the meeting between President Biden and the other leaders will be a constructive effort to try and limit the military confrontation to the one thing which is inevitable. And this is the war against Hamas. Hamas is like ISIS. Hamas is like Taliban. Hamas is like Al-Qaeda. This organization doesn't want peace, is not interested in compromise, does not agree to live alongside the state of Israel without military confrontation. And therefore, we must make a concerned effort together with our friends from Egypt, Jordan, and the Palestinian Authority to try and remove the Hamas from its dominant position in Gaza. This is an essential step towards a momentum of negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian Authority to achieve peace between us and the Palestinians. But there will never be peace in as long as Hamas will be in charge of Gaza.
So you're not ruling out a possible diplomatic solution to this war. And this is also coming at a time when there is a situation of total siege of Gaza, which is causing a grave humanitarian crisis. As WHO has been saying, then how will this crisis be resolved?
Well, I had President Biden a few times in the last week or 10 days, and in each and every one of his statements, he kept saying that Israel has a full right to respond to the atrocities committed by Hamas and to reach out in an effective manner in order to try and remove Hamas from its position in Gaza. So I don't think that diplomatic compromise is aimed or is meant to be a diplomatic compromise with Hamas. I don't think that Biden wants it, and I don't think that Abu Mazen wants it. Certainly not Sisi and King Abdullah. What we need to do is to try and minimize the collateral damage caused to innocent civilians. You must understand something. This is not a competition of who kills more. They killed 1,400, maybe 1,500 Israeli civilians. We are not interested in killing one non-involved civilian in Gaza. On the contrary, we want to make peace with them, but there will never be peace with the people living in Gaza in as long as Hamas is in control of Gaza. So I know that there are innocent people killed in Gaza. The reason that we wanted them to go out of the city into the southern part of Gaza was in order to separate them from the center of the military activity against the heads of Hamas. They are all stationed in the center of Gaza, the headquarters, the bunkers, the launchers, the weapons of Hamas, all are in the center of Gaza. In order to effectively fight against them, we need to have the people living there going outside of the city for a short period of time. And we, together with America and together with the Egyptians and others, will take care of the humanitarian needs of these people.
Mr. Olmert, you made a point that President Biden doesn't want a diplomatic solution. Nobody wants a diplomatic solution in this war. My question then is that there is a visible ripple effect that has reached beyond the borders of Israel and Gaza. They have also put many hopes on hold, particularly the Arab-Israel normalization deal. The battle lines are drawn, the positions have been taken. This has also revived the Palestinian cause. Do you fear this war could expand?
I hope not. I hope not. There are some skirmishes in the north with Hezbollah. At the present time, I don't know to say, they don't give me delicate information from the Hezbollah. They don't like me. I fought against them in 2006 and I've devastated them. And Sheikh Nasrallah said 17 years ago, after the confrontation in the Second Lebanese War, he said that had he known 1% of what I do to them, he wouldn't have started. So I hope that he remembers and that he will not start a military effort now in order to split the Israeli concentration into two different directions, to the south and to the north. That's what may be the purpose of Hezbollah attack. But the reaction of Israel will be very harsh, and I don't think that Hezbollah is interested. So I hope and I think that this is one of the reasons why America brought its aircraft carriers, Gerald Ford and Eisenhower, into the area with enormous air power and missiles power in order to warn Hezbollah and Iran not to expand the war beyond the direct confrontation, which is inevitable and which America thinks is inevitable, between Israel and Hamas.
What about the normalization deal? Because before the terror strike and the escalation that we are seeing, there was significant movement on that front. The normalization talks that were being held between Israel and Saudi Arabia.
Well, I definitely think this is a very appropriate question, because the normalization that was building up and the agreement of a military assistance between America and Saudi Arabia and normalization with Israel was made to try and stop the growing penetration of Iran into this part of the world, which may be a source of instability and turmoil. And perhaps one of the reasons why Hamas, which is the long arm of Iran, was doing what they did last week was precisely in order to stop this process. So my hope is that the Saudis will resume the negotiations for normalization. I think that the normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and of course the growing cooperation between America and Saudi Arabia, is very important in order to create a new axis of moderation in our part of the world, in order to stop the penetration of Iran and the extremists and radicals and ayatollahs into our part of the world. And I don't think that anyone needs to give a victory to the brutality and atrocities of the Hamas by stopping this process.
Mr. Olmert, there is a lot of talk of an intelligence failure where Hamas clearly outsmarted Israel's famed Unit 8200, the General Secret Services, also known as Shabak, and several other agencies responsible for surveillance. Did Prime Minister Netanyahu drop the ball on security?
Well, definitely there was a failure. And I think that we need, for ourselves, first of all, to understand that we failed. The intelligence failed. The Secret Service failed. The head of the intelligence, the head of the Secret Service, and the Chief of Staff of the Army, all of them already announced that they assume responsibility for this failure. There can be no question about it. They surprised us. We were caught in a complete surprise. And this is something that will have to be investigated. The reason for it, I think, is not the lack of ability of the Israeli services. It was the exaggerated confidence and maybe some arrogance that we know everything and who are they that they can surprise us. So they proved that they can surprise us. Now the question, which I think you are heading at, is what is the degree of responsibility of the Prime Minister? First of all, I believe that 80% of the Israeli people today would love to see Netanyahu go home as soon as possible. The fact is that he was the proponent, the inspirator of the policy which was overlooking the Palestinian Authority, the moderate Palestinians that we should have negotiated with, that I negotiated with when I was Prime Minister with them. And instead of building up a momentum of negotiations and rapport and understanding with the Palestinian Authority, we downgraded them and uplifted Hamas, because for the Prime Minister, dealing with Hamas he thought was supposed to be safe, because Hamas is definitely not a candidate for a peace process. So you don't have to make concessions to Hamas. And Netanyahu is responsible directly and personally for the famous deal with Hamas, which released more than 1,000 murderers of Hamas in exchange for one Israeli soldier. Now, all the leaders of Hamas today, Yahya Sinwar and all the others, were all released by Netanyahu as part of this deal. So he is perceived to be, he is held, and he is responsible for building up the capabilities of Hamas, which brought about this terrible shock to Israel, and Netanyahu will have to leave. It may take a few weeks, maybe a little bit more, but I guarantee you that when the next time you will interview me, it will be after the Netanyahu has been kicked out of his position.
But there is a unity government in place. What is giving you that confidence that Prime Minister Netanyahu will be out?
You see, that's the secret of the strengths of the Israeli society. The national unity government is not really a national unity. Two members joined of a relatively small party, but very distinguished Israelis who are former chief of staff of the Israeli army. They joined the war cabinet for one purpose and for a short period of time, to help the Israeli army pull itself together and move forward to beat Hamas. They are not partners of Netanyahu. They will not be partners of Netanyahu. And together with other political forces, they will do whatever is needed to do in order to get rid of them.
All right. Former Prime Minister of Israel there, Ehud Olmert, giving us his viewpoint. And he is saying that Benjamin Netanyahu is on his way out. Appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to NDTV.